One of the great pleasures of hosting Net Worth Radio is the caliber of guests and friends and the friendships that we've built over the years. So I got a call over the weekend from Caroline Booth, one of the most astute PR people in the nation, and she actually serves Congressman Pete Sessions. He is our congressman from the 32nd District here in Dallas. He was an SBC veteran and retired from there, and of course is now chairman of the House Rules Committee. So when Caroline introduced him, she said, okay, here is the chairman. And without further ado, here on Net Worth Radio, welcome to the chairman.
Spencer, thank you very much, and I'm delighted to join you today. I think that we're really talking today, and the buzz around the country is, thank goodness we have a Republican House and a Republican Senate with men and women who represent the American people and are not weary, do not make excuses, and understand what the needs of this great nation are. And last night we witnessed the President of the United States again showing up, I think, rather flippant and without a real meaning and purpose of direction. And I think he does not take his job seriously. And I think he was more interested in a review, like a year-end review, where we were supposed to hear things that we, by the way, disagreed with. Our country is not better. We are not safer. We have not avoided a war. We've simply pulled back from our leadership ability, where the United States of America exudes not just American exceptionalism, but leads the world in all people who look to America as the leader. And as an Eagle Scout, I'll tell you, trying to aim on a true North venture. And this president has failed the American people, and he proved it again last night.
Well, you know, in the phrase, and by the way, those of you that want to get to the link, Congressman Sessions' response, I urge you to get on his mailing list, by the way, but there's a link on our website, networthradio.com, take you right to Congressman Sessions' response. Yeah, you used the phrase Washington knows best attitude, and I really thought that is worth expanding on. A great use of phraseology.
Well, in fact, it is, and you are used to the term, netting out, net wealth. How much not did you earn, how much do you keep? We are in the same business here also in Washington. How can we make this country stronger and better to where we're prepared for our future? Washington, D.C. is a Democrat enclave and a town of people who want special interest and who want them to win. And Republicans represent people back home. We understand the 10th Amendment. We understand the Constitution. We understand and respect a division of labor between the three branches of government. But what we will not do is we will not sit back without expressing our viewpoints and the directions we have to go. Last night, you quickly saw where the president ran through his laundry list, and one of the mentions that he made was Obamacare. In fact, you and I know it is the biggest inhibitor to employers hiring full-time people. Secondly, what lies ahead with the, quote, Cadillac tax on health care means that the government will be making money off business providing health care to its employees. What a repugnant idea. And so what will happen is that business will simply not provide the benefits to people further. This erodes, not helps, what we were trying to get at. The president, when he talks about having free education, look, I'm all for community colleges. I think they do a great job to a select group of people. But in a priority perspective, it's a lot of money, it's a new program, and we can't even take care of what we have today.
For those
when you look at Keystone Pipeline, the president once again spoke to his base, but I'll tell you, we're going to get this done because it's critical to the infrastructure of this country. It's critical to our relationship, our foreign affairs, and most of all, to our military and security interests that we have.
Now
so we're going to turn these things around and provide leadership for America.
And that leads to, there's two things I'd like for you to clarify, and that, of course, you led to the Keystone Pipeline, which gets us to the first 100 days right, of this Congress and the agenda. So if you could explain for the listeners, those of you just tuning in, Congressman Pete Sessions, 32nd District, right here in Dallas, and the leader of the House Rules Committee. If you could explain the House Rules Committee chairmanship, what it means, and this next 100 days agenda for the House, I think that's exciting for all of us.
Yes, thank you very much. In fact, I'm the first Texan ever to be the chairman of the Rules Committee. What is the Rules Committee? The Rules Committee is that arm of the Speaker where the agenda for legislation comes directly to the chairman of the Rules Committee so that it is formatted in a way and prepared in a way that is ready to go to the floor. We have lots of pieces of legislation that were perhaps written weeks, months, years ahead of when it might get to the floor. We prepare that legislation. We create an understanding among our members, and we make the final decision about what will be, in essence, what we call made in order. In other words, amended to, or how changes can be made. And it is made up of 9 people in the majority and 4 in the minority. 9-4, you figure out who's going to win. And it's my job to then bring all of this legislation, 1, 2, or 3 at a time, to the floor of the House and present it to the floor so that we have a chance to debate it. This is where we are different than the Senate. The Senate has a Rules Committee, but it's only for authorizing office space. The Rules Committee in the Senate does not exist, and that's why the leadership controls everything. This is member-driven. So that's what we're going to do. Our first 100 days, real simple. We have over 350 bills which have been passed the last 2 years, which Harry Reid, who was replaced as the Senate Majority Leader when 8 Democrats lost, picked up by the GOP. He will debate these issues. He will have votes on the issues. I cannot guarantee the outcome that they will have, but I can tell you we'll go to conference. And conference will now be Republicans, a pro-business, pro-conservative venue where we will be able to then get legislation out of the House and the Senate and to the President. Our first 100 days are about the pieces of legislation that are jobs-oriented that will allow the American people to see we have adults and Republicans in Washington.
Now, and that leads to, what we can expect in the first 100 days sounds like a real blizzard of legislation that's been pent up in the House. It's just reconfirmed and sent over to the Senate for committee reconciliation. Is that right?
It is there for their committees. Let me give you an example. Keystone Pipeline.
Got it.
Keystone Pipeline has been looked at and held up by the President of the United States for 6 years. He went to the opening ribbon cutting, talked about what a great project it was 6 years ago. Then he can make a decision. You and I both understand what he's doing, but he has been aided and helped by Harry Reid for these 6 years not handling legislation when we passed it in the House. So it's now over in the Senate. They're going to get their job done. It will be sent to the President. It will not surprise me or anybody else if it's vetoed. But because we have the Senate, we have a transportation and infrastructure bill that is due by May. And so we will quickly turn around and add that to a transportation bill that will get 400 votes on it. That's veto-proof. It's because there are roads and bridges and airports and ports and opportunities for every member, and they do not want to be voting against that. And so it will give us a chance to finally pass this, and the President will be in a hard shape.
Okay, hold
that position not to pass it.
Hold that 400 veto proof for just a second. Great concept. Those of you just tuning in, an interview with Congressman Pete Sessions in response to the State of the Union, but more importantly, defining the first 100 days of the new Congress and a historic, I would say a historic blizzard of mutually agreed on legislation. So you believe that you have, starting with transportation, some veto-proof legislation that's going to hit the President's desk.
I fully believe it, and it is in the best interest of this country. We could spend a lot of time and talk about how high tax rates are and how that's a disincentive for businesses to stay in America and employ people. We could talk about a lot of issues, but probably one of the most potent issues out there is Keystone Pipeline, which would give America a relationship with Canada to get 300,000 barrels of oil on a daily basis. That's 300,000 less that we have to get from the Middle East, 300,000 barrels that have to come on ships that are constantly back and forth, where we have a blue water Navy that has to spend money to keep shipping lanes open. We quit having to go to the Middle East as a needs-based country. Because we need oil, we can be there seen in different ways. We can give the $300 billion a year that we would buy from the Canadians, and it would not go to the Chinese. There's so many strategic and national interest policies that ride on this, and Republicans are going to stay after it. We will not give up.
Okay, so those of you just tuning in, an interview with Congressman Pete Sessions, chairman of the House Rules Committee, and one of the captains of a blizzard of legislation that's about to head for the Senate and the President's desk, a historic use of powers of the House. On that front, something that we all agree upon. Those of you that missed part of the interview and you want the link, be sure to get on Congressman Pete Sessions' email list. It's one of the best newsletters that I get. Go to networthradio.com. You can link. All right. So, Congressman Sessions, something we all agree on: IRS, and John Koskinen has threatened that we're going to get refunds that are going to be delayed. That sounds like a threat that might hurt the middle class. What powers does the House have, and how does that apply to what you may do to improve, we'll call it the IRS posture?
Well, John Koskinen is a man that I know. I don't know him well, but I have worked with him many, many, many times. And he proved himself, I believe, to be an able leader. And then he's become head of the IRS, our commissioner, and in that job he's found a way to stumble and trip and listen to the agency rather than solving the problems. The biggest problem that we have is that we are being fleeced by so many people who fraudulently try and get refunds, who are asking for money, many times which are fraudulent because people are stealing people's identifications, and their quote easy system of giving back money, many times, as we found out, some $200 million went to one location, one address alone. And then it was presented electronically, and what they assume went straight to either Romania or to Germany. We cannot allow this, and the IRS has allowed themselves, because of the fights that they have had with the American people that were politically based directly out of the White House. Remember, some more than 100 trips by the head of the IRS to the White House. What the heck? They need to go do their job, do their business. It is more than complaining. It is actually a real problem that we have. So what do we need? We need to simplify our tax code in the short run and the long run to where we avoid these problems. If they cannot perform and do this, then what we need is someone who can get it done. Look, I learned this in 6th grade going to a Little League baseball. I watched my buddy Jimmy, a shortstop. He loved the ball, and the coach said, hey, Jimmy, if you're not going to make the play, I'm going to get somebody in there who can. We need to get someone in there who can be honest about the IRS, be honest about our problems, and let's fix the darn thing. You have Republicans to work with. I'm not for anybody fixing the government, but I darn sure am in favor of us fixing it, and that's where John Koskinen needs to be. I'll have a direct conversation with him, the commissioner, at some point, but right now we're engaged in a battle. He needs to man up just like we are and admit we have problems, but we're going to fix it, not keep fleecing the taxpayer.
Congressman Pete Sessions, our guest today on Net Worth Radio, KLIF. Get to the website at networthradio.com. I urge you to sign up for his newsletter. Again, that's one of my favorite subscriptions. And Congressman Sessions, I'm very grateful for the time that you've spent with us, and I appreciate the insights into the next 100 days, a really historic time in American history. Anything else you'd like to add for the Dallas audience?
Well, what I'd like to add for the Dallas audience is that we have created within Texas, because of our mindset and because of our desire for America and our state to be successful, that I recognize as I travel the country, we do things differently. We are owned by a mindset and guided by a mindset that we should not allow others to be responsible for our own success, and that we're not going to bank or count on them to get done the things which we need to do ourselves. And this self-reliance means that we have an idea about reducing the size of government, that people who make decisions should be local people, and that we should stand a chance to be able to get things done, not have be in a he said, she said, or to fight about things. Progress under Democrats and Barack Obama have been fights, and they have been, I believe, false summits. False summits about what they're trying to achieve, false summits about what they're trying to do. And I will tell you that the agenda that Republicans are after are pro-business, they are about careers, they are about full-time employment, they're about full-time decision-making that a person can make on their own, in their own home, in their own church or synagogue, in their own temple, or in their own community. And too much of the time we have a big federal government, and we've been told by Mrs. Clinton and Barack Obama and the political leadership of the Democrat Party, including Nancy Pelosi, that it takes a village, that it takes the government, that it takes others to make decisions. You really can't trust yourself. And that is a wrong philosophy. So my message to people from Dallas, Texas would be, I trust you with your future more than I trust the federal government. And it's true about the border, it's true about taxation, and it is true about education. So what we've got to do is to use these next 2 years by our Republican leadership to show the American people that we are worthy in our cause about bringing us all the way back.
Congressman Pete Sessions, thank you for being with us today, and a well-earned title, the chairman of the House Rules Committee. Grateful to have you on, and we're always looking forward to the next visit from the chairman.
You bet. Thanks.
Thank you, Congressman Sessions.
You bet.
We'll be right back on Net Worth Radio.